alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, everyone. Welcome to the conversation show today. Here I have a special guest, Omar Moises. Alhamdulillah, we're going to be addressing different topics, different issues. Here at the conversation show, our goals are that we want to promote Islam the way how it should be within our youth and society. How Islam is changing people's lives, such as ourselves here, and how Islam is very powerful. Also, the issues that our youth are going through today in today's society, which are not being addressed, and how we can come with different solutions, such things of that nature. Also, bringing people back to the DEEN, because we know many times it could be tough, and we don't have that actual support, or sometimes we just want to hear other stories on how people came to Islam and how it changed them, and it could be a form of motivation. So these are our goals here in our show, and I'll be having different guest speakers, people from different backgrounds, cities, and everywhere. So we want to hear others' experience and what are the solutions that they can also give us a tip and suggestions for our community. So alhamdulillah, we have here today Brother Omar Edgar Moises Thompson. So tell us a little bit about yourself, man. Assalamu alaikum. How you doing, brother?
Assalamu warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. So you, where are you originally from?
I'm from Miami, Florida.
MashaAllah, MashaAllah. Wow, wow.
I'm
Came
here.
all the way down from Miami, huh?
MashaAllah, alhamdulillah.
MashaAllah. And so what's your ethnicity? Where are your parents from?
Well, I'm mixed, I'm
Okay.
Hispanic. I'm from Nicaragua. My mother is from Managua, Nicaragua.
Oh.
My father's French, and his mother was from Nicaragua.
Oh.
And my dad lives out here, and my mom lives in Nicaragua. So,
MashaAllah.
I'm out here visiting.
So for those people who are out there that don't know where Nicaragua is, where is Nicaragua?
Nicaragua's in Central America, brother.
Oh, okay. Wow. MashaAllah. MashaAllah. That's beautiful. And so do you see a lot of Nicaraguans coming to Islam? And how is that?
Alhamdulillah, I met yourself. You're Nicaraguan.
No, that is me. Yeah, that's right. I'm also from Nicaragua. MashaAllah. My parents are from Nicaragua as well, Managua. So alhamdulillah, man. So let's talk a little bit about your experience on before embracing Islam. Like, how was it growing up out there in the city, and especially in Miami? What brought you way out there and come back on this side, in the Bay?
Well, Miami, Florida, first of all, anybody that knows about Miami, Florida,
Right.
this is like straight fitna area. Like, they have all the beaches, the clubs, all this is an illusion, the dunya. You have the young kids, they want to imitate these rappers and things like that, I was one of them myself. Now I'm trying to imitate the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And basically, my brothers, inshallah, they become Muslims, through the will of Allah. Because I have 5 brothers.
No.
They're in Miami, Florida right now.
Big family, mashallah, mashallah. And so, so as before embracing Islam, what were your struggles, and what made you feel that you needed to change?
Well, Miami, Florida is like a gang area population,
Right.
drugs.
Right.
I come from a little place called Florida City. That's like at the bottom of the state. And basically, like, this state right here is very illusion. I lived in the ghettos, a lot of Hispanics with a lot of gang violence, and the life I was living, it was either the grave or I was gonna be somewhere in jail, with a long, long time of life sentence probably. And I know a lot of my friends have gotten life sentences, and inshallah they come to the DEEN. I write some of them to this day. So, that's like a wake-up call right there,
Alhamdulillah. And I can relate a lot to that, because me growing up as well before I became Muslim, I used to run, with gangs and did all those things, man, and drugs and stuff. So I can relate a lot to that. And being in that type of state of mind or lifestyle, of course, after a while, you want to change. You want to come to something better. You feel that you almost start losing a little bit of hope, huh? Can you relate to that? You losing hope as far as that, this is how I'm going to die in this type of state, this type of mentality, that our way of thinking and stuff like that. So, alhamdulillah, I'm glad
Alhamdulillah.
you experienced. So, if you don't mind me asking, have you ever been locked up or in prison or in jail or anything like that?
Okay, I don't like to reveal my sins, but since you asked, and I'm trying to make a good point here, yes, I've been incarcerated. I've done 60 months in DeSoto,
Okay.
Florida.
Okay.
And basically, the first time I see somebody prayed, it was a Hispanic person. He was from Peru. And I asked him, I was like, what are you doing praying? What are you praying to, a towel? What are you praying to the wall? I was very ignorant. I didn't know these things, you know. And I was raised in a Catholic household, but I wasn't like very spiritual disciplined. And more or less, like by me getting incarcerated, this is like the only place where you take the time and read, especially coming from Miami, Florida, because Miami, Florida is a place where you have clubs, a lot of distractions, and a lot of drug, a lot of gang violence. So my mind was very polluted, and I was caught up into these things.
No.
So when I seen a Hispanic brother, he started talking to me about Islam. And
Okay.
by me growing up, I always thought Islam was like for the African Americans, where they have this thing called Nation of Islam, which is pretty big in Miami.
Right.
It's pretty big in the United States, and they're basically only African Americans can join this sect of Islam.
Right.
So just by me going to prison, that opened up my mind to a lot of things. You know, I learned a lot of things. I educated myself. I started learning how to read, because I didn't know how to read or write before.
Right.
So alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah. And so I guess alhamdulillah, now you're guiding us through your journey. What attracted you to Islam? What made you feel that this religion or this way of life that we call this DEEN, what made you feel, spark an interest into your heart, or caught your attraction to come closer to Allah?
Well, what made me come closer to Allah, I used to do a lot of studying with some Christians, and I started finding a lot of contradictions in the Bible. So after that, I was like, this is what I was raised upon. And I'm like, man, Christianity is not even the way, man. You know, I was just like always talking to God at night, praying me, lead me to the right direction. I knew Islam, but I didn't know Islam too much about it. So I started boxing while I was incarcerated. And this guy named Jamil Mackey out of Miami, Florida, he taught me a little bit about Islam, about the prophet Jesus, and why his name is not Jesus, why we call him Isa alayhi salam. And he taught me all these things, and I appreciate it. And then after that, I went as a guest to a Jumu'ah inside the prisons. The first thing I fell in love with was with the Adhan. I was like, wow, mashallah, what is that? What language are they speaking? You know, I ain't never heard these words, and I just fell in love. Something entered my heart and touched my heart. And, and anybody that knows me out there in Miami, Florida, in these streets, they know I was putting in work. I was a shot caller, go-getter. I ain't even playing these streets. But I don't know, it just, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala just planted something in my heart when I heard the Adhan.
Alhamdulillah.
And I was like, I know this is the truth. And I started reading Quran and things like this and studying with the Muslim brothers.
Allahu Akbar.
Allahu Akbar.
And that's the beauty of Islam, because I remember how similar to yours, I was exposed to a brother from Senegal who was practicing, and he was praying one time, and that's how I got introduced to Islam. And then later on, I also, was somewhat learning from the Nation of Islam too, But then, alhamdulillah, Allah guided me to the right path, which is the true Islam, the way how the Prophet ﷺ lived, the Sunnah way. So, alhamdulillah, and the reason why I asked you was because two questions. Was one, why did you ever go to jail, or did you? What attracted you to Islam? And I think that's important for people to understand that, not everyone is perfect. And we're going to all make mistakes. But the thing is, there is a time, a point of our lives where we do want to change this type of lifestyle that we're living. Like, we don't want to live like this forever, But yeah, we get to a point in our lives where we reach the bottom. And we feel that, we're not either worthy enough to help others or worthy enough for ourselves? And so these are all questions that we ask ourselves every day. Every day, you know, we see, even as a Muslim now, you know, we see a young Hafiz of Quran or a scholar or something, and mashallah, you know, for those who have the intention to study and become Hafiz, may Allah make it easy, but not everybody will be a Hafiz. Not everybody will be a scholar. So some people begin to feel that, you know, I'm not needed, or I'm not worthy, or this, that. And so, you know, Allah has a place for everybody, a position for everyone. And so, alhamdulillah, and one of my positions, I feel, is me being here, you know, doing this show, you know, trying to relate to the youth out there that needs help, and to hear our stories, because that's what's, you know, not being heard. And so brother Omar, so what was your original name, and what made you choose Omar?
Well, my original name is Edgar Moises Thompson.
Okay.
And Thompson comes from the French lineage of my dad, but my dad's mom is from Nicaragua, and my mom was born in Nicaragua, which is in Central America. But no, Umar, Saifullah, Umar was the second Khalifa. Right. This is one of the rulers, the second ruler. Right. And Saifullah is the sword of Allah. MashaAllah. So I feel like since I was a very powerful person on the street, I deserve a powerful name. Alhamdulillah. And there's Umar.
Okay, mashallah. Mashallah, it's a beautiful name, man. Umar. And that's also a name that's in common in the Latin culture too, right?
Umar, yes. Yes, it is.
Yeah, oh, mashallah.
Well, you got to understand, the Moroccans, they went to Spain and they ruled, the Moors, they ruled Spain for 800 years.
No, mashallah.
Yes.
So as you became Muslim, did you start noticing a lot of similarities with the Latin culture and Islam and things like that?
Oh, yes. You have a word called Ojalá. That's in Spanish.
Right.
And in Arabic is Inshallah.
Wow. So they mean the same?
Alhamdulillah.
Wow, mashallah. So in God's willing, huh?
In God's willing.
Wow, mashallah. That's beautiful, huh? How,
yes.
You know, Islam is so influenced in even people's culture, and especially Latin culture. So mashallah, that's beautiful. So as in coming into Islam, how was it for your family to accept it? And also, what do you feel that were like the barriers within, you know, your family accepting Islam, or was it pretty smooth?
Well, when I first accepted Islam, I did not accept Islam in the prisons. When I got out, I still got out here. I was backsliding. I wasn't reading my Quran anymore. Then I ran into an old gang member, brother. Well, we call each other brothers, as you know, coming from a gang culture, the street culture. You know the street culture.
Was it homie or whatever?
Homie, you know all these things, all these terminologies. So he seen me and he was like, you know, I'm going to the mosque because tomorrow is Ramadan. I was like, wow, you going to the mosque? Tomorrow's Ramadan? I was like, you know, take me to the mosque right now. And I was reading in there, and then it was a brother from Pakistan. He was just visiting from London. He was a Hafiz. He was like, oh, what's holding you back from taking your Shahada? You could die tomorrow. You could die an unbeliever. You know how this is very important. So I was like, you know, you're right. He was like, take baby step towards Islam. And look, I'm here now.
Allahu Akbar.
And Allahu Akbar. And so I just took my Shahada. You know, this is the testimony saying I bear witness that there's no worthy of worship but one God, and Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was his last and final message.
MashaAllah. So when you came to Islam, did you go home right away, or later on a week? When did you feel it was the right time to tell your parents or your family that you accepted Islam?
Well, I went home the next day, and the next day was Ramadan, so I had a fast.
Right.
And I was telling my mom that I just became Muslim last night. I'm fasting and all this. The first year went by. She was like, "Oh, it's a Ferris wheel. He's gonna get off of it." Like, it was temporary, basically. I was like, "Mom, no, this is a lifetime commitment."
Right.
And she was like, "Okay, as long as you're not doing drugs and drinking and going to these clubs and, you know, shooting them up and all, you know, the rest of the thing."
Right.
So, more or less, I was like, "Yeah, I'm Muslim now." She was like, "What? You're Muslim for real? Okay." But as I started getting like more into my DEEN, I was like, "Look, I can't eat pork no more." Because in the Spanish culture, they love to eat pork.
We be eating that pork,
African
man.
Americans,
Pork chops,
they do too.
all that,
So, yeah, they eat it all up. But
was that hard to leave too?
It was very easy because I was already kind of like in prison. I was already not eating pork and all this from being around those spiritual disciplined brothers. So,
how was your first day of fasting? Was it real tough, man? Remember that?
It was kind of tough. Yes, it was. No water and all this. See, the Christians, they could drink water.
Right, right.
So I was
So
like,
the
what?
Christians
No.
fast, right?
Yeah, they fast, but
It's a different type fast, huh?
Yeah, it's a different type of
Okay.
fasting. It's nothing like Islam or
Right,
nothing.
right, right. Mashallah, mashallah. So, alhamdulillah, because I remember when I broke the news to my mom, man, when I became Muslim, you know, the first thing that came out of her mouth was like, "Oh my God, you're gonna be a terrorist, un terrorista." That's what we say in Spanish.
Yes.
And she started crying. I'm like, "Mom, are you serious?" She's like, "That's all I see on TV." So, did your family also thought of that too?
As a matter of fact, yes, they did. Because one day I was sleeping, and I was like, "Wow, this is how they really feel about me," because I was sleeping, but I could hear my background.
Right, right.
And as I was hearing my background, I heard my grandma saying to my mother, "Oh, he's a traitor. He changed his religion, and I'm gonna die a Catholic and all this stuff. And they're gonna train him how to put on bombs on around his chest and all these things." I'm like, "No, all this is a misconception. These people are so pious and humble. Anybody who tries to practice the Sunnah is like the path of the Prophet. You're trying to live like the Prophet Muhammad, the last final Prophet Muhammad."
Right.
So, you know, as I've been Muslim 36 months now.
Mashallah.
And
Mashallah.
Alhamdulillah. And,
Alhamdulillah, man.
So I've came a long way.
Yeah, man. You know, and Islam is beautiful. You know, Alhamdulillah, last week on Friday, I went to the prison over at Solano State Prison. Alhamdulillah, I'm volunteered there. Inshallah, I'm going for my brown card as well, so I can be more of a regular. So I'll have my own set of keys and go in there just to help the brothers out in there too as well. And it's important to talk about that because, you know, there's a lot of people coming to Islam in prison. And right now what I'm starting to see is a big transition of converts, you know, and that's what this show is, the conversation. And so with Islam, it's like a station, you know, you're converting and there's a station. But it's also addressing to those who are born Muslim, who fell off their deen and come back to the deen. They're also, you know, considered as reverts or converts. So going into the prison is a thing for me that I love to do and help out in the community to transition them when they get out, to bring in other speakers in there as well. Some of these brothers is locked up for life and all. And so also in prison you can have a misconception what Islam is, that it's only an African American, you know, religion or this and that. For Latinos it's a little different because of the cultural shock, or I won't say cultural shock, just more segregation. There's a lot of segregation going on in prison. So alhamdulillah, you know, Islam's a lot more powerful than the mind, where, you know, we think one way, but Allah will bring many different signs and bring us together. So alhamdulillah, you know, I'm glad to see another Latino brother coming into Islam. I can see that the you know, within a few more years, a lot of the waves of converts are going to be Latinos. And so I encourage everyone to start learning how to speak Spanish. You know, you want to give dawah, then you learn Spanish. Inshallah, inshallah. So
Inshallah.
let's talk a little more about your journey into Islam, how it is today. Now, what are the things that you see that are becoming, I won't say an obstacle, but more like a challenge? What are the challenges for you in Islam right now?
The challenges.
So, for example, for me, you know, when I became Muslim, my challenge was to understand the culture. And see, many times when people convert and come into Islam, we see how some Muslims, they mix together the culture and religion. And so for me, it took me a while to understand that not everything was religion. It was a culture thing, the way how certain people dressed, or the way they ate their food, or wore things, or said things, and things like that, of that nature, you know. And so for me, I thought it was just that all of that was Islam. And then as they're understanding and studying, I started seeing the difference. So that was one of my challenges, was just to see the difference, you know. And I can see that, you know, you can still be yourself as a Muslim. As a Muslim, you can still be yourself, but you're improving yourself. So what were your challenges in coming into Islam?
My challenges coming to Islam, like basically, you know, for example, like wearing a thobe, and they'll be like, "Oh, why you wearing like that?"
Right,
I was
right.
like, "Because I'm trying to distinguish myself from you guys," and I believe we need it in America. So a lot of youths, they're probably shy because what their classmates are gonna say to them by wearing a thobe and things like this.
Right.
So if I can do it, why can't you guys do it?
MashaAllah.
You know.
MashaAllah.
And I mean, I basically don't really have any challenges right now. The only thing I could say is that, it, you know, it's gonna be a time where
Right.
I was like, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was gonna lead me to Islam, but I could have been changed my life.
Right.
I'm only 25 years old right now.
MashaAllah, you're young, brother.
But I used to always go to the corner store and be like, why the brother never gave me dawah?
SubhanAllah.
Because in Miami, there's a lot of Bangladeshis,
Right.
So it's like they come to this country and like they forget about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. They forget their studying that they were doing in the Middle East or whatever. So I don't know what it is. I'm not here trying to judge anybody or nothing, but I'm just trying to say Islam is perfect. Muslims are not. But let's just try to like give more dawah to these guys. Don't be scared to give them dawah. Maybe I used to think, well, because I used to have long dreads and, I used to have more tattoos. My whole body's full of tattoos and everything. So I used to walk in there with tank tops and everything. Maybe they were scared. I don't know. But I'm just trying to say is like, only fear Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala.
No.
And just try to plant a seed and maybe somebody else can water it.
Inshallah.
Inshallah.
So talking about tattoos, if you don't mind me asking, what is those tattoos by your eye?
That means when somebody in your family dies and things like this.
Okay.
If you get them on the left side, it means you killed somebody. If you got one on the right, up under, not shaded in, it means you done time.
Okay.
So it can mean a lot of different things,
And so talking about the tattoos, now that you explained to it, I'm sure a few Muslims come up to you and say, hey, brother, in Islam, you're not supposed to have tattoos and this and this and that. And so they have to understand that, some of us had tattoos before we were Muslims. So do you get that type of approach sometimes?
Absolutely. I get it all the time. It's mostly like from the little kids, they don't know and all this.
Right.
They be like, hey, you're not allowed to have tattoos in Islam.
Right.
I'd be like, brother, I was a Christian,
Right.
And they be like, oh, okay, alhamdulillah, you're Muslim now.
Alhamdulillah.
But that's bad. It's only the little kids, really.
Right. Alhamdulillah, yeah. I had a brother that went through that, man, and it was kind of a quite experience when we were at the mosque. This set of brothers came in, and this brother, he's a new Muslim. He's also Puerto Rican and black, but the brother had all tattoos up and down his sleeves, his arms, forearms. And this one brother comes in, he's like, brother, you're not supposed to have tattoos, that's forbidden, it's haram in Islam. And, we had to explain to the brother that he's a new Muslim. He had that before he was Muslim. And kind of criticizing him like, well, you're going to the hellfire because you have tattoos and this and this and that. And so, we have to be careful. Like you said, the youngsters, the youth, how we approach each other. Because there could be one thing that you say to another brother or sister that can push them further away from Islam, whether they might be practicing or not practicing. And so the whole concept is that we're trying to bring them back to closer to Allah. So there could be a statement or something that you say to somebody that can bring them closer to Allah. So we have to be very careful and be wise enough on what words we choose to talk amongst each other. And that's one of our other goals, missions that we do here on our show, a conversation show, that we're conversating. How can we improve our conversation with each other? And so, alhamdulillah, I'm glad, we're touching on some real important topics out there. So let's talk about the society of now today. Today we see how the youth and Muslims in America, how, like you said, and you said something very important in Miami. And so it's not just only in California or San Francisco or Fremont, or wherever these places are, the Bay Area. It's all over the world, especially in the United States, is where Muslims migrate here. And when they migrate here, they tend to fall off their DEEN. And we see they start opening up liquor stores, they start, not praying. And so then the youth have no guidance. And so they're neglecting, they're even neglecting their own identification as a Muslim. They don't even want to be known as Mustafa, call me Mike. They don't want to be known as Muhammad, call me Mo. They don't want to be known as Bilal, call me Billy. These things. And so growing up in Miami, let's go back a little bit, Miami. How was the society of the youth out there? What were the things that you were seeing out there?
Well, the things I was seeing with the Muslims or the non-Muslims?
The Muslims, like you said, they were opening, liquor stores and things
well,
like that.
In Miami, Florida, the Muslims are like, basically getting caught up in this dunya, in this money,
Dunya is world?
It's world, right.
Oh, okay,
World
sure.
of illusion. The reason
Right.
I say world of illusion is because they forget about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and that's it. They don't pray, they don't come to the mosque.
Right.
When Ramadan comes around, I be seeing them. I'm like, hey, I haven't seen you like in a year.
SubhanAllah.
And it should be like every day, that Muslims should be coming to the mosque and things like this, and more or less, I feel like that the Muslims, I want to know what's going on in the households, because that's where it really starts, from the household. Well, I'm 25 years old, I have no kids and all this, but I want to know, what are they doing with their kids? What kind of activities are they doing with their kids? Are they teaching them Quran? Because the foundation starts in the household,
Right.
And if they're not doing like Taaleem, taking any time to do classes and in the houses, then how do you expect your son to be spiritual disciplined?
Right. And and that's true. And so we're seeing it here in the Bay Area, So it's not only just here, it's in Miami and all different places throughout the states, how the youth, they're the next generation after us, And so how are they being prepared to continue with this message of La ilaha illallah Muhammad Rasulullah, spreading Islam, or the right way of being spread? Not just to being spread that, okay, yeah, you could be Muslim, but yet we're seeing the youngsters out there, going to the movies with their girlfriends, or smoking some weed behind the movie theater, going to the liquor store, going to the clubs. And this is what we're seeing in today's society, is that, no one's fearing Allah in a good way, and we say fearing Allah because Allah's watching. Allah knows everything. But yet we fail to be conscious, having taqwa in Allah, that, Allah is the one who will ask us of what we did with our time. What did you do, of your whole time of being Muslim? And when we, that time comes, the end of time, people will be begging for one more minute to gather up more good deeds. But Allah will say, no, that's it. This time is done. It's complete now. So the other thing that I also see is that a lot of youngsters, and when we say youngsters, we're addressing even the Muslims, youth. How in schools they're trying to start their own little gangs, the little groups, and they want to go and run around and, cause problems, or even the college Muslim students, they're going out to the nightclubs and drinking and these things. So what do you think? What kind of solutions should we come up with, or what kind of tips or suggestions do you think you have that we can help out the youth out here?
Yeah, we need a ghetto solution, and
What do you mean by that?
Because a lot of people do not go into the hoods and all this, and they forget about second-class citizens. So what I mean about this is that maybe we can, probably play football with them, basketball. Wow. I mean, I'm young myself, so I'm very athletic. I can run, play football, basketball, anything, I'm willing to help even this community, because I feel like if I go to New York, Philly, no matter where I go, I feel like I belong to that community because I'm a Muslim.
Alhamdulillah.
So
you're pretty good
this
at
problem, yes I am.
Alhamdulillah.
This problem is my problem also. And maybe we can put some boxing classes together, then Quran, because certain kids, they like to have fun also. Right. They just don't want to study. Right. Because they're not going to want to do it. So I guess they're going to want to follow their desires.
Right. So what I'm hearing is spending more time with our youth and going into the tough neighborhoods and get them to get a glimpse of how it is with the different communities, different neighborhoods, to go in and see how it is, in the more poor areas, in the areas that they're growing up
To
out
be
here.
thankful for what they have.
Right, mashallah. And that's a good idea because, you know, a lot of them, they don't understand how it is growing up in the hood.
Right.
You know, and many of us, we grew up in the low income neighborhoods. You know, we call them ghettos, the hoods. You know, many of us grew up in projects, you know. And so growing up in this environment, you see nothing but shaitan all over the place. You know, drugs is being sold, gangs presence is there, you know, they're being targeted of racism, you know what I'm saying? When we go to these schools, then you know, people of color are not doing so great in school, you know, with English and math. And so, and I'm also starting to see that with some Muslims too, you know, and people want to say that it's the education system, or, you know, oh, I don't want to send my son to a public school. But yet, what I also see is what are the parents doing? Are parents spending time with their kids? Are you actually spending a great time with him or her instead of going to work all day? Are we spending time where we sit down at the dinner table together and check in with each other at least once a week? Are we spending time with our youth, our children, to take them out to somewhere they love to go to, whether it's the movies or going out to Great America or to these, you know, places? And I think that sometimes we be neglected. So how can a parent, or how can a child, their sons or daughters can relate to their parent? When you ask them a question, you know, what's wrong with you, or how was school? Are they telling you the honest? Are they telling you the truth? Because then the relationship within the parents and kids it's not there anymore. And so they come to programs where they feel welcome. And so, alhamdulillah, brother, is there, what do you think that you can, and I heard you earlier that you wanted to contribute and give back. What are ideas and things that we can give to the parents as well to help their, you know, our young Muslims out there?
Well, I feel like some of the brothers, they should voluntarily and go to these prisons and see how the characters and the morals of the Muslims are in there. Man, the Muslims in there, man, they're so respectful. They'll hand you your shoes. Like, what I want for myself, I want for my brother. And they're really living by that moral.
MashaAllah.
And I want a lot of brothers to see this, how it is in there. So maybe you could take also your son in there. It's maybe so he'll get out that type of lifestyle. Have him come talk to me.
Alhamdulillah. And, you know, that's a good thing. And it's a very simple process to go into these institutions, you know, the prisons, the juveniles, you know. But are we even looking towards that? And that's a good point. I'm glad you brought that up because, you know, I just went into the prison on Friday for Juma. And you were right. You're absolutely right, brother. You know, we got through finished praying. A few brothers came up and brought me my shoes and thanked me for just me being there. And I actually learned a lot from them from inside. You know, they were doing halakas and talking about salat. And I seen them very structured and humbled. And so this is a good thing. And also yesterday, Wednesday, I also volunteer in the juvenile hall in San Francisco, and I go and speak to the youth. And that also gives me another perspective of how the youngsters are, you know, growing up. And so, yeah, that is a good idea, you know, for the parents, you know, to go and see. Because why? Because this is where our youth is headed to. If they don't start, you know, getting their act right, if they don't start coming back towards Allah, then the system will come in and intervene on that. And so we have to understand, too, that, you know, we're coming to a new year, 2013. And as we're coming to a new year, new laws. And if we're not understanding our laws or our rights, then they could be violated without us even knowing. And so that's also something important that we all need to understand our rights. And alhamdulillah for programs and organizations out there such as CARE, you know, that are very helpful, that helps us out, you know, in situations that we might be in that we're not too sure of. And so, alhamdulillah, there are programs out there. So, let's talk a little bit, let's turn this a little into about the Latinos, the Latino community. Now, how is Islam coming into the Latino community. We want to wrap it up too in a minute. So I just want to hear a little bit about how is Islam spreading to the Latinos?
Well, it's spreading fast, but not fast. And I feel like I have a very important role by me being a Muslim. Maybe me and you can get together and go out there and, give dawah.
Definitely.
Inshallah.
Inshallah. And so, Islam was already in Spain. And as the brother was saying, halal, that's a word from Arabic. Arroz, pantalón, camisa, azúcar, aceituna, almohada, fulan. These are all Arabic words, but this is in Spanish. The way I just told you is in Spanish. So it's the same thing as in Arabic. So Islam is spreading all over the place, but particularly here in California, it's a lot of Latinos because there's a big population of Latinos. And once they come into Islam, they're very religious people. But alhamdulillah, as I try to wrap things up, is there any few last words or advice that we should give to our audience and to the youth out there, inshallah?
Yeah, what I want to give to the parents that have these kids out here going to these clubs, drinking and all this, maybe try to spend time with them, try to put them in a gym, try to work out with them if you can, if you're able to. And basically, I've met people who have got life sentences that are murderers, and I mean, like, they won't even kill an ant now because they Muslim. They scared to step on the sand of the yard when they walk around the yard outside. They're scared to step on the sand because they feel like they're going to kill an ant, and that ant is going to judge them on Judgment Day. So these are the type of brothers that I know. Alhamdulillah.
And so, alhamdulillah, that this is as we conclude to our program of the conversation show. My also final advice is that let our youth, let our parents understand our youth, what they're going through, understand the culture, understand the society, and it changes every generation. And as it continues to change, that's a good thing because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says change is a good thing. But how can we change others if we can't change ourselves? So we need to change our heart so we can come closer to Allah. And remember, there's never too late to make tawbah. Ask for forgiveness of all the things that we do. Let's not forget about that. The Prophet ﷺ, he used to ask for forgiveness at least 100 times a day. And this is the Prophet. So, inshallah, tune in again, inshallah. Every Thursdays we'll be having the conversation show, inshallah. So please tune in, come support us. Support also Iman TV, inshallah. And jazakallah khairan, man. Jazakallah khair, Brother Umar, for coming all the way from Miami.
Assalamu alaikum wa
rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. That concludes our show. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.